Right or mo, they look with their eyes, but they do not see. A man can walk past his own miracle every day and never know it. A woman can stare at her reflection and not recognize the universe staring back. We live in a world where perception is mistaken for truth and attention is mistaken for awareness. People do not see it, and that is the tragedy. You see, we've been trained to look for fireworks when the light we seek is already glowing inside us like a quiet candle. We're told to chase the extraordinary, to become something more, to build higher, run faster, shout louder. But what if I told you the secret was in the stillness, in the silence, in the space where no one is watching and no applause is given? People do not see it. They do not see the battles others fight in the shadows. They do not see the ache behind a forced smile, the fatigue behind ambition, the loneliness behind strength. They don't see the mother waking before dawn to breathe life into her children. They don't see the man repairing his dignity, piece by piece, after a fall. They don't see the quiet revolutions happening in bedrooms, on long walks, or in the middle of the night when a soul refuses to quit because we've lost the art of seeing, of truly beholding. We've been taught to scan, to scroll, to categorize. This is success. This is failure. This is beautiful. This is not. And in doing so, we miss the entire human story. You have something in you right now. Something no one claps for, something no one congratulates you for. You've endured, you've survived things no one will ever understand, but because the world didn't see it, you've started to believe it's not real. But it is. Just because others don't see your light doesn't mean it isn't burning. Just because they don't understand your pain doesn't mean it isn't sacred. You must see it. You must know what lives within you. The world will try to distract you, detour you, discourage you, but it is only when you begin to truly see yourself that you begin to become. Let them look past you. Let them ignore your struggle. You don't need their eyes. You need your own. You need to see your scars as survival, your silence as strength, your solitude as sanctity. People don't see it because they haven't yet opened the eyes of their soul, but you must. Stand up in the truth of your journey. See the beauty in the broken. See the power in persistence. See the gold buried in your wounds. That's where the treasure lies, not in what they see, but in what you are. You rise from your bed, broken perhaps, but upright, and no one says a word. You drag yourself through grief, disappointment, the endless echo of self, doubt, and no one writes headlines, but those are the victories that shape you more than any celebration could. People mistake ease for winning. They confuse luxury with achievement. But what of the person who wakes up in the grip of despair and still dares to hope? What of the quiet soul who walks through fire and keeps their humanity intact? These are triumphs that the world forgets to honor. They do not see the person who resists the urge to give up when there's nothing left to hold on to. They do not see the hands trembling but still holding the weight. These victories are forged in shadows, not spotlights. In your silence, there is a scream of endurance. In your solitude, a universe unfolds. Every time you say, "I will keep going," even as your knees buckle, something divine awakens. But it goes unseen, and perhaps that is why it's so sacred. The world is distracted by noise. It fails to see the masterpiece that is restraint, the miracle that is continuation. They want drama, explosion, spectacle, but real growth is quiet. It breathes beneath the surface of the ordinary. You know you've won something precious when no one else even realizes a battle took place, and perhaps that is the essence of inner victory. It does not demand recognition. It simply is. Imagine enduring pain for years and still choosing compassion. Imagine being betrayed and choosing not to become bitter. Imagine losing everything and refusing to let the loss define you. These are acts of rebellion against despair itself, and still, no parades. The greatest triumph is surviving your own mind when it turns against you, waking up and deciding to be kind in a world that has not always been kind to you. Let others chase the validation of the crowd. Your real reward is deeper. It is the person you become in the aftermath. The world sees medals, resumes, titles, but these things are surface level. What they do not see is the soul refined by fire, the spirit unshaken by storms. That is where true victory lies. Every time you feel unseen, remember, your quiet persistence is not in vain. The universe hears you, the silence carries your story, the stars blink for you. There is a deeper language of honor that is not spoken by men. One does not need witnesses to become noble. One does not need a stage to become heroic. The moment you decide not to give up, even in the face of nothing, that moment becomes sacred. Do not wait for applause. Do not crave recognition. What you carry, what you conquer within, is beyond the grasp of those who only chase what shines on the surface. You are victorious not because they see it, but because you survived it, carried it, and rose again without needing them to know. Let me know if you'd like the second keynote next. Perception is not truth. They look at you and decide. In a second, in a blink, they assign you a place, not based on who you are, but who they imagine you to be. This is the curse of perception, fast, shallow, and so often wrong. They name you without knowing your name. They see a smile and think all is well. They see silence and assume there is nothing there. But a smile can be armor, and silence can be a scream. Truth lives far beneath the surface, deep beneath the masks we wear to survive. Perception is fragile. It's filtered through fear, memory, judgment, and projection. What they see in you often has nothing to do with you. It is their reflection cast upon your canvas. And yet, so many carry the weight of misperception as if it were fact. You are not what they see. You are not the rumor. You are not the whisper behind your back, nor the sideways glance at your worst moment. You are the sum of choices they've never witnessed. You are shaped by storms they've never walked through. They see failure when you are only recalibrating. They see laziness when you are healing. They see arrogance where there is only learned self-preservation. They are too eager to name, to define, to place, but they never truly look. And yet, how easy it is to internalize their vision, how easily the echo of their perception becomes a cage. But the truth does not bow to opinion. The truth sits quietly inside you, untouched by assumption, waiting to be remembered. You must not let perception bind you. You must not let their shallow understanding of your depth become your identity. You must be still enough to separate what they think from what you know. People forget how much illusion we live in. They forget how dressed up pain can be, how a life can look picture, perfect and be hollow, or how a soul can appear broken and yet be more whole than ever. There are days when your truth is misunderstood and you feel the sting of being unseen. But remember, even a diamond looks like a stone to the untrained eye. Just because they do not see your worth does not mean it has vanished. You must learn the art of existing without their validation. You must walk through misjudgment without folding into it. There is a certain elegance in being wrongly perceived and choosing not to correct the record. Because your life is not a courtroom, the need to be understood is human. But the refusal to be defined by misunderstanding, that is powerful. That is where freedom lives, not in the echo chamber of approval, but in the deep, steady rhythm of your own self-recognition. Let them misread you. Let them draw their conclusions. The sky is still the sky, whether or not they call it blue. You are still the fire, the river, the mountain, no matter how they name you. In a world full of projections, your greatest act of rebellion is to know yourself. To protect the truth of who you are from the erosion of perception, you are not their summary, you are not their edited version. You are the unspoken chapter, the silent triumph, the unseen fight, and that is enough. Would you like me to proceed with Keynote 3? Self-awareness is the real sigh. There is no greater blindness than the one that looks outward without ever looking inward. The world teaches you how to see others, how to judge, how to compare. But rarely does it teach you how to witness yourself. And yet, self-awareness is the only vision that will ever free you. You can spend a lifetime observing the flaws in others, reading their motives, predicting their intentions. But if you have not dared to observe yourself truly and ruthlessly, then you remain in darkness. Not the kind that surrounds you, but the kind that lives inside. Self-awareness is not a mirror, it is a scalpel. It cuts through ego, delusion, fantasy. It shows you not just who you wish to be, but who you've been in the quiet, unflattering moments. The way you speak when you think no one is listening, the choices you make when no one is watching. Most people fear this vision, they run from it. They wrap themselves in distraction, in noise, in performance, anything to avoid facing the raw truth of their own soul. But what you avoid in yourself only grows in power. Shadows expand when denied. To be self-aware is not to punish yourself. It is to liberate yourself. Because once you see your patterns, your triggers, your inherited fears, you can stop being ruled by them. You can choose to become something more than your conditioning. There is a strange strength in confessing your weakness to yourself. There is power in seeing your envy, your insecurity, your pettiness, not to shame it, but to understand it. For what you understand, you can transform. The blindest people are often the loudest. They know the least of themselves, and so they speak the most of others. But the truly aware, they speak with quiet eyes. They listen more than they talk, because they have seen the war within and know how fragile we all are. You begin to realize that most conflict is projection, most hatred is unresolved pain, most arrogance is fear in disguise. And when you see this in yourself, you begin to see it everywhere, not to judge it, but to make peace with it. Self-awareness gives birth to compassion, not the kind that pities from a distance, but the kind that recognizes itself in others. The kind that says, I too have been cruel, I too have lied, I too have fallen, and yet chooses kindness anyway. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. And once you learn to sit with your mind, not obeying it, not resisting it, just watching, it loses its power to deceive you, and in that stillness something ancient awakens, a sight deeper than the eyes opens. You begin to see your motivations, your wounds masquerading as ambition, your fears dressed up as dreams, and slowly the truth of who you are, beneath identity, beneath persona, emerges. The world will continue to feed you masks, titles, labels, expectations, but the self-aware do not wear them for long. They may play the role, but they never forget who they are beneath the costume. That memory is their anchor. To know yourself is to no longer be enslaved by the need to be accepted. You begin to live from the inside out, not dictated by approval, but guided by alignment, not craving applause, but seeking integrity. And with that awareness, life becomes simpler, not easier, never easier, but simpler. You know what is yours to carry and what belongs to others. You know when to speak and when to be still. You know when it is your shadow acting and when it is your truth. Self-awareness is not a destination. It is a practice, a ritual, a devotion to seeing clearly, even when the sight is painful, because you know the cost of blindness. They notice when you bleed, but not when you begin to heal. They rush to see the fall, but seldom pause for the rise. That's the truth about healing. It is quiet, uncelebrated. It happens in rooms with closed doors, in conversations with yourself no one else will ever hear. When the pain was loud, everyone heard you scream. But when the healing started, there was no sound, just the soft stirring of something fragile beginning to mend. No audience, no applause, and still you continued, because healing was never meant to be a performance. There are days when you smile and they think you're fine, but they don't see how much it took just to get out of bed. They see your laughter, but not the years it took to reclaim it. They see your strength, but not the tremble beneath it. This is the loneliness of recovery. No one sees you setting boundaries and drowning in guilt. No one sees you rewriting your own beliefs because the old ones were suffocating. No one notices when you stop blaming the world and start taking responsibility. These are not dramatic acts, they are sacred ones. You are not who you used to be, but the transformation was not a spectacle. It was a slow, brutal birth, a breaking and remaking. People think healing is beautiful, and it is, but not in the way they imagine. It is beautiful like a storm clearing, beautiful like silence after chaos. They don't see the nights when you chose not to call, the days when you stayed instead of running, the moments when you let go, quietly, of people who used to feel like home. These are not things that get noticed. They're invisible victories. Healing often looks like nothing from the outside. It looks like normal days, like doing the dishes, like answering emails, like walking the dog. But inside, entire worlds are shifting, patterns are unraveling, wounds are being cauterized. You learn to stop looking for acknowledgement. You realize healing does not need a witness. It does not demand to be admired. It only asks that you continue, that you stay with yourself, even when it feels like no one else does. People will notice when you finally seem better, but they will not know the cost. They will compliment the confidence, but miss the battles it took to rebuild. They will see the light in your eyes and never ask what it took to reignite that flame. You are a mosaic of all the pieces you've stitched back together. But people only see the whole. They never ask about the cracks. They want the after, not the during, and that is why you must learn to honor your process, even if no one else does. There's a certain nobility in healing quietly, in changing your story without needing to narrate it. You let go of the need to explain yourself. You realize your growth is yours alone, and in that realization you find peace. You begin to understand that people often celebrate outcomes, not progress. They want the polished version of you, but your raw, unfinished moments were the most heroic of all. The part where you kept walking, even when you had no map, no guide, no assurance. So when no one claps for you, clap for yourself. When no one sees you, see yourself. Because every small act of healing, every breath, every boundary, every brave step toward wholeness is a rebellion against what broke you. You can explain your pain 1,000 different ways, with words, with silence, with tears, with rage, and still they will look at you blankly. Not because they're cruel, but because they have not yet been broken. Not truly. Not in the way that rearranges your bones and rewrites your mind. People think they understand suffering until it finds them. They imagine how they'd respond, how they'd rise, how they'd endure. But imagination is a fragile thing. It does not hold a candle to the flame of lived agony. You cannot understand the fire until it burns you. There is a different language spoken by those who have shattered. It's slow, still, honest. It doesn't rush to fix or judge. It knows the terrain too well. The ones who have broken don't speak over your pain. They sit beside it. They don't advise, they witness, but most haven't reached that threshold yet. They live in the illusion of permanence. They still believe control is real, that grief is optional, that love always saves. They haven't met the storm that tears the foundation from beneath them. They haven't screamed at the ceiling. So when you tell them what you're carrying, they don't hear the weight. They hear words, just words. They don't know those words are soaked in blood, that each syllable cost you something to speak. They nod, they smile, they say, "I'm sure it'll be okay." There is a loneliness that comes with being the first to fall. You look around hoping someone understands, and instead you find eyes that reflect comfort, not comprehension, and you learn some things cannot be taught. They must be lived, they must break you open. You learn not to demand understanding. You learn not to plead for empathy. You begin to speak less and feel more. You find sanctuary in those who flinch at your pain because it reminds them of their own. Those are the ones who have walked through fire. There's a stillness in people who have broken. They do not hurry your grief. They do not shrink from your truth. They do not try to make it pretty. They know healing is not a show. It is a ritual, a slow unfolding. They know because they've buried parts of themselves too. You start to see the difference. Those who comfort you because it's convenient, and those who do it because they've been exactly where you are. The former offer sympathy, the latter offer sanctuary, and sanctuary is rare. So you stop explaining. You stop performing your pain for those who haven't earned the right to witness it. You begin to grieve without an audience. You begin to speak in silence, and in that silence you find yourself. One day they will know, not because you told them, but because life will show them. Life always does. It arrives uninvited, disguised as tragedy, heartbreak, loss. And suddenly they're the one on the floor, gasping for air they thought they owned. And then they remember you. They remember your silence, your distance, your exhaustion, and maybe, just maybe, they'll see you clearly for the first time. Not as weak, not as dramatic, but as someone who survived what they now must face. That recognition is not revenge. It is not triumph. It is a bridge, because the broken recognize the broken. And if they have the courage to rise, you will be there, not to say I told you, but to say now you understand. This is the paradox of suffering. It isolates and connects. It separates and unites. And in the end, your pain becomes a map, one you didn't ask for, one they will one day follow. Not because you led them, they will never see the storm that shaped you, not the waves that crashed against your chest, nor the darkness that swallowed you whole. They will only see the shore you now stand on, barefoot and breathing. They'll say you're strong without knowing how many times you begged not to be. You walked through fire and it didn't announce itself. There was no lightning in the sky, no thunder in the background. Just days where you sat in silence, facing everything you couldn't escape. That's the part they don't see, the quiet war behind your eyes. This world is too fascinated by outcomes. It worships the healed, not the healing. It adores the confident, not the trembling soul who fought to be seen. But you chose to continue even when the audience left the room, even when not a single soul clapped for you. You must understand that being unseen is not failure. It's nature. Trees grow in silence. Stars are born in blackness. The soul rebuilds itself far from the noise of the crowd. You're not here to be understood. You're here to evolve. The ones who laughed at your caution will never grasp the weight of your fear. The ones who mocked your solitude will never comprehend the depth of your reflection, and that's all right. Healing was never a shared ceremony. It was always yours alone. You changed in places they never knew existed. You repaired things they never saw break. So don't hold yourself hostage to their perception. Let them be blind. Let them speak. Let them misunderstand. You have no debt to pay to those who never stayed for the quiet scenes. There is a kind of power in being unseen, a kind of strength in not needing validation. The most extraordinary transformations happen far from the public eye, and that's what makes them real. That's what makes them sacred. You are not here to explain your wounds. You are here to live through them, to wear your scars not as decorations, but as maps of where you've been. Let them wonder how you did it. Let them create their own myths. The truth is far too complex to be captured in stories. The most profound kind of healing doesn't turn you into someone else. It strips away everything false. What's left is not new. It's ancient. It's the version of you that existed before the world told you who to be. That self isn't loud. That self doesn't perform. That self is free. When others finally break, when life brings them to their knees, they may look to you not as a savior, but as a signal. They'll recognize something in your eyes, a quiet you carry. They'll wonder how you survived, and then they'll begin their own slow return to self. You won't need to say much. Just being present will be enough, because pain teaches a language that needs no words. You'll offer a silence more comforting than speeches, a glance more healing than therapy, not because you're above them, but because you've been them. This is what makes the unseen path worth it. Not recognition, not approval, but the ability to hold others with the same grace you once begged for, the ability to sit in someone else's darkness without trying to pull them out, only holding the space until they decide to rise. What you went through matters, even if they never saw it, even if they never understood, even if no one ever said, "I'm proud of you." You survived anyway, you rebuilt anyway, you loved again anyway. That is not weakness, that is the purest strength. So walk quietly, carry your healing with dignity. You do not need to scream your journey from rooftops. Your eyes already tell the story. Your silence is a lighthouse for the lost. Your presence is a refuge for the weary. You are proof that broken things do not stay broken. Let them keep looking for fireworks. You'll remain the quiet flame that never went out. And in that stillness, in that steady burn, you'll know you've become something far more powerful than they ever imagined. Someone who no longer needs to be seen in order to be whole.